Hey there friends, let's make some dice. And not just any dice, I'm making some dice that are going to be used in a proposal. I thought it would be totally fitting that this set of dice launched my YouTube channel. Before today, my dice were primarily found on TikTok, but I'm spreading my wings. All of the products that I'm using today are listed below. Feel free to recreate this set yourself, and I'd love to be tagged so I could see your final product. I started by splitting my resin into 4 separate cups. In a 5th cup, I used some Piñata Blanco. This bit of resin is mixed up first so it has enough time to move up the pipette. Every dice maker has a favorite part of the process, and this part is mine. For this design, it's incredibly important to be light-handed with alcohol ink, because the goal here is a pastel rainbow. Too much alcohol ink could really result in some harsh colors when we're going for something soft and dainty. I would almost say that even these colors are a little too dark, but lucky for me, the commissioner liked them the first time they saw them. And honestly, that's the most important thing. To make my life easier, I always order my colors in pouring order. For this dice pour today, I'm using Total Boat resin, which compared to a lot of the other resins that I've tried, it is a much thicker resin. Now, that's actually important here because I'm hoping that by using a thicker resin, that will naturally allow some color separation instead of the opposite, which would result in some very muddy colors and not a pretty rainbow. I love that I'm able to edit this video for you all in real time. As I mentioned earlier, most of my content has been on TikTok, and I always have to speed it up 2 to 4 times the speed. Now, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy editing short form content for you guys, but it really just gives some unrealistic expectations for what the dice making process actually looks like. When I made my first dice set, I thought I had to mix and pour the resin so quickly, and that just resulted in so many air bubbles and voids. That will actually help thin out the resin and hopefully ensure that some air bubbles don't get stuck inside of the numbers. At this point, I'm optimistic about the pour because you can clearly see some color separation across the slab. In my opinion, piping in the little white clouds is the most stressful part of this whole dice pour. I've found that clouds are easiest made if you just insert the pipette to where you want the cloud to start, then apply pressure and swirl up towards that top of the cavity. And that should help ensure a consistent cloud size across each dice. To do this, I briefly bring the lighter close to the surface of the resin, making sure not to actually hit the mold. After I place on the lid, it's time for this mold to go into the pressure pot for 24 hours. The next day, we're able to take the mold out of the pressure pot and see if everything worked. At this point, it's just habit for me, but I always take time and inspect each die face for any voids or surface bubbles. Since this set of dice was for a commission, I was really thrilled to see that there were no voids and the flashing was really thin, which meant that this dice set was going to be easy for me to sand and polish. In order to help with the longevity of my molds, I always pull my mold from each die face slowly before demolding the dice. If you decide to skip this step, you might accidentally pull out some of the silicone numbers inside of the molds as you take out each die. When I demolded this D4, I initially thought this was a fail, but as I turned the die around, that color separation was absolutely stunning. And because I decided to do a layered pour technique with this specific dice design, it resulted in that muddier high face that you're seeing. However, I really think the payoff is in that horizontal cross section like you see here. After I demolded the dice, I waited a full week before sanding and polishing them to make sure they were fully done off-gassing. I didn't include any clips of my sanding process, but if you would like to know more about that, please leave me a comment so I know. When the commissioner reached out to me about making this set, they wanted me to replicate a set I had already made for myself. That set was inked in a metallic rose gold and topped with rose gold glitter. I'm using a small paintbrush and thinly applying a layer of that rose gold paint. I'm definitely being too much of a perfectionist here because in the end, this paint is going to be covered with glitter anyway. Once each number is covered in paint, I take that face and wipe it across my coffee filter. Each dice maker has their own preferred method, but I prefer coffee filters because it has less fibers than a standard paper towel. And because this dice set is so special, I am taking every precaution to make sure that the finished product is perfect. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I was making a set of dice that was going to be used in a proposal, I would have honestly thought you were crazy. When I started making dice in March of 2021, I just wanted to make dice for myself and my friends. At that time, I had zero aspirations of ever opening a shop, and honestly, I never thought that my dice making would even make it this far. Usually, I'm the type of person that likes hopping from hobby to hobby, but thanks to the dice making community, I've stuck with it. The dice making community definitely believes in me more than I believe in myself, and I'm hoping eventually this whole imposter syndrome wears off. And it would be a shame for me not to mention how I got started in the hobby in the first place. So if you are considering subscribing to my channel, please make sure that you are also subscribed to Ribinator because I would be nowhere without him. And right now what you are seeing me do is clean off my dice using one of my coffee filters and some isopropyl alcohol. It's best to do this step the day after painting to make sure that the ink is all dried. And there we go, friends, this is the final result. Well, not technically, because when I really finished the set, I was too excited and mailed it directly off to the commissioner. But here's the original set so you can just imagine that final product. In the next video, we'll do a deep dive into my glitter inking process on this Chonk D20. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.